Tonight we're going to spend a little bit of time, and I want to try to make it as fun as possible, talking about my perspective on Tableau, but we're going to look at it through the lens of what I call the art of the possible. So the title of tonight's talk is The Power of Asking Questions and Embracing Different Perspectives. So here's a high level outline of what we're going to talk about tonight. Um, Sekou has done a great job covering the who am I. So I won't spend a ton of time here, but I will do something to kind of help balance it out, to help people understand where you're at isn't always where you start, and where you're starting at doesn't define where you end up. So what I want to zero in on is the diversity of experiences. I know we talked about the diversity of the questions, the way in which we engage on our jobs, and obviously being a diverse group ourselves. That's a whole different topic that we'll touch on. But the diversity of experiences, the reason I have this here is not to outline anything or really zero in on anything specifically, but to say that there's been a common thread that's kind of guided my career from the beginning, even when I was studying sociology, all the way to where I am now. And that's really embracing discomfort, accepting learning opportunities, and being willing to ask questions. So, very early on in my career, and I won't spend too much time here, one of my mentors said, assume intelligent design. And what he meant by that is if you're dealing with something that's difficult, assume that someone else has also faced a similar situation, and that there are more than likely, there are options to alleviate some of that burden. And taking that approach, I've always looked for opportunities to innovate from where I started, whether it was SEF, which is a Southern Education think tank, where they were using Excel and Map Info. I assumed there was a better way. I found Tableau, recommended it. They gave me access to the content management system. I learned a little bit of HTML, CSS. And so everywhere I've gone, I've been looking for those opportunities, asking the question. Sometimes many of us may be, not so inclined to ask questions, especially when we're in new industries where we don't have established expertise. But leaning in, asking some of those questions has really unlocked a lot of growth. Enough about me specifically. But I want to really highlight this particular thing. So I early in my career, I was learning Tableau. I thought it was pretty good. I had an interview. I'm not going to say where, but when I went into the interview, I was very prepared. I had gotten my Tableau certification. I was prepared to answer questions. How do you show the top 10 or do some parameterized the date calcs? I can do all of that. But what I was asked to do, I was not prepared to do. And the question was, here's a data set. What do you think? And I completely froze because in that moment, I hadn't thought about the process. I had been what I call an order taker. I was a technical expert. I could do what was asked, but I hadn't sat in the other seat to think about what are the right questions to ask and how do I actually go about answering these questions in a logical way, in a systematic way. So that has really grounded everything that I do. So I always tell people, yes, we can learn the technical execution of different tools, but if we don't learn how to think about how to apply those tools in new and exciting ways, then we might miss out on opportunities. So that helps shift my perspective, and that kind of shapes the way I want to kind of go through the conversation tonight. So, why this topic? I've given you a little bit of that, but I do love this quote, which is what we see a lot of times in the space we're in, technology, data analytics, however you want to look at it. Most of the issues that we run into are not technical challenges, but a communication challenge. And I love the quote because it says, the biggest problem is that we have the illusion that it has taken place. So we talk to clients, we talk to stakeholders, and we assume that they understand us, we understand them. And then when we show them something, there's a lot of times there are missed opportunities. So that's just a fun quote. To the fun part of this. So we talked about the power of asking questions. I don't know how many of you all have seen these shows. That's not important, but these are popular shows on Netflix that focus in on questions. So we have Love Is Blind. Some of you, my wife has me watch. I watch them, so I admit that I watch them. So Love Is Blind is about strangers who communicate between with a wall in between them. So it's really geared to asking the right questions to decide if you're going to propose to the person on the other side of the world. On the right hand side of this slide, we have Indian matchmaking, where there's someone who has a database, ironically enough, of various families, their children, and their characteristics that they think might be right for the other person. For all of us data lovers, we imagine that would be a great word where we can kind of look through a database and say, all right, what are the key characteristics? But I would argue that it starts with the right questions. And these shows kind of illustrate that point. And you see as the show goes on, those who ask the right questions have given themselves a better opportunity of success before success. So, in the spirit